The hum of the human colony's power grid was faint but steady as Captain Alina Voss walked through the narrow corridors of the command center. Orion 7 was not a welcoming planet. Its surface was a rugged expanse of jagged rocks, deep canyons, and storms that tore across the horizon without warning. Yet humanity had learned to survive here, to build, to endure. That survival, that stubborn refusal to surrender to harsh worlds, was what Alina always thought made humans different. Her eyes were fixed on the main display, where a blinking light had just appeared, a signal. At first, she thought it was another system ping, another minor fluctuation that could be ignored. But when the signal repeated, there was no mistaking it. It was structured, deliberate, and unmistakably intelligent. Alina's hand hovered over the controls as she called her communications officer, Lieutenant Haru. "Haru, what do we have?" she asked, her voice calm but alert. "It's unusual," Haru said, his fingers dancing across the holographic keyboard. "It's a distress signal, Captain, originating from outside human-controlled space. The pattern doesn't match anything in our records, but the encoding suggests a level of intelligence higher than ours, possibly alien." "Can we trace the source?" she asked, Haru's brow furrowed. "Yes, but it's faint and scattered across multiple frequencies. We can triangulate a rough position, but it's deep in Thrylia expanse. That's well beyond the limits of most human fleets." Many ships that ventured too far never returned. Still, the thought of a sentient species calling for help stirred something in her. Humanity was small, scattered among distant stars, but when they acted together, they could make a difference. "Prepare the survey ships," Alina said firmly. "We're going to see what this signal is." Engineers checked systems, pilots confirmed navigation courses, and Alina watched them with quiet pride. These people, ordinary humans trained to survive extraordinary circumstances, reminded her why humanity thrived in places others could not. By the time the fleet left the orbit of Orion 7, the expanse stretched out before them like a dark ocean dotted with distant stars. Every ship in the small armada was carefully maintained, a mixture of exploration vessels, light warships, and support craft. They were not the largest fleet in human history, but each ship carried humans willing to fight, adapt, and endure. That willingness, Alina thought, might be their greatest weapon. Days passed as the fleet moved through the expanse. The signal grew stronger, more distinct. Alina spent hours studying it with her science officers. The patterns were complex, almost musical in their repetition, and the team agreed this was no random distress call. Something intelligent was reaching out. Then the first signs appeared. A tiny spacecraft emerged from behind an asteroid belt, approaching cautiously. Its design was unlike anything humans had catalogued, smooth, almost organic shapes that reflected the light of distant stars. The craft hovered, scanning the human fleet. Alina stepped forward, issuing a greeting in the universal language humans had developed for first contact. "This is Captain Alina Voss of the Human Exploration Fleet. We received your distress signal. Please respond." "I am Caliph of the Thrylians," the figure said, its voice smooth but firm. "You have come. We did not expect anyone to hear us. Our homeworld is under threat from the Deathworlders. They are approaching. Our defenses will not hold. We need assistance." She had heard whispers of them in human intelligence reports, an alien species that left nothing alive, consuming entire worlds without pause or mercy. They were a name spoken in fear across multiple star systems. "What kind of assistance?" Alina asked carefully. "Do you have any defenses left?" "Our technology is advanced, but it is not suited for sudden large-scale conflict. We can provide knowledge and resources, but we lack the adaptability required to survive the Deathworlders' assault. You, humans, may have the strength to turn the tide." Yet here they were, capable of surviving Orion 7, of exploring distant stars, and now, potentially, saving another species. "We will help," she said, her voice steady. "Prepare to share all information about your defenses. We will find a way to stop the Deathworlders." Few would intervene knowing the risk. Small groups of engineers began reinforcing orbital defenses, combining human ingenuity with Thrylian technology. Meanwhile, the first signs of the Deathworlders appeared. Scouts, dark, menacing vessels, slid through the expanse like shadows. Their presence caused immediate tension among the Thrylians. Panic rippled through the alien fleet as their sensors detected the looming threat. Alina, however, remained calm. She walked along the human command deck, observing her crew. Each person worked with focus, adjusting calculations, monitoring communications, and preparing for any scenario. This calm determination, this refusal to succumb to fear, was why humans survived when others faltered. One night, as the stars shimmered in the distance, Alina stood alone on the observation deck. The signal from the Thrylians continued to pulse softly in the background. She thought of Orion 7, of the people left behind who depended on humanity's survival skills. She thought of the Deathworlders and the unimaginable destruction they could bring. And yet she also thought of the courage humans carried within them. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would act. Even when the path was dangerous and uncertain, humans would step forward. That was their nature. That was their strength. The next morning, reports came in. The Deathworlder scouts were moving faster than expected. Their numbers were small for now, but the warning was clear. A full fleet was on its way. Humanity had to act quickly. Alina gathered her officers in the main command center. "We have little time," she said. "The Thrylians are capable, but they need us to adapt, to fight in ways they cannot. We will train, strategize, and prepare. Our mission is simple: protect the Thrylians and survive the Deathworlders' arrival. We will not fight like others. We will fight like humans. We will be unpredictable, adaptable, and relentless. The Deathworlders may have numbers, but we have ingenuity. We have courage. We have the will to survive." Humans were reckless to some, foolish to others, but there was a spark of something extraordinary in their willingness to act when others hesitated. By the time the sun, or what passed for a sun in this distant system, rose over the jagged horizons of the main Thrylian world, the human fleet had been integrated into the alien defenses. Small teams practiced evacuation drills, scouts mapped asteroid belts, and engineers reinforced key points with human improvisation. And yet, beneath all the preparation, a quiet tension remained. The Deathworlders were coming, and no amount of planning could fully guarantee survival. But Alina believed in her crew. She believed in humanity. And for the first time in many cycles of long space travel, she felt a sense of purpose that went beyond mere survival. They were answering a call for help, and humanity, even small and outnumbered, would rise to meet it. As the final warning signals from Thrylian sensors blinked red, Alina looked out into the dark void. A shadow moved in the distance, growing larger with each passing moment. The Deathworlders were coming, and humanity would be ready. The small human fleet had settled into the Thrylian system, orbiting the planet Varus, the largest of the alien civilization's worlds. It was a world of silver oceans and floating landmasses, a place that defied human expectation of what a planet should be. Yet the beauty of Varus did little to calm the tension. Every sensor reading brought another reminder. The Deathworlders were approaching. Their presence could be felt long before their ships appeared, a shadow of death that made even the advanced Thrylians uneasy. Captain Alina Voss moved among her crew with purpose. She could feel the anticipation and anxiety in the air, the unspoken question that hung over everyone. Could a human fleet truly make a difference against such a formidable enemy? She knew the answer, but she also knew that it would take more than courage. It would take creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to take risks others would avoid. The humans began their first coordinated efforts with the Thrylians. Their initial task was simple in theory: integrate human tactics with Thrylian technology. In practice, it was a delicate balancing act. Thrylians were precise, meticulous, and deeply logical. Their defensive arrays were advanced beyond human comprehension, yet their strategies relied heavily on calculated scenarios, leaving little room for improvisation. Humans, on the other hand, thrived in chaos, turning unexpected situations into opportunities. Alina observed a group of engineers attempting to merge human kinetic shields with Thrylian energy deflectors. Sparks flew as circuits overloaded, and the Thrylians fretted over every miscalculation. A human engineer, a young woman named Kira, stepped forward with a grin. "We don't need perfection. We need clever," she said, rerouting power with a combination of intuition and trial. The shields blinked to life, functioning in a way that neither species had anticipated. Calith, the Thrylian liaison, floated near the observation window, observing the humans. "Your methods are unorthodox," he said. "Yet they work. I do not understand why, but the results are undeniable." For the first time, the Thrylians began to see humans not just as strange allies, but as a potential turning point in the coming war. As preparations continued, scouts from the Deathworlders began to appear. Small, dark ships, almost like living shadows, slipped through the void between planets. They moved deliberately, their sensors probing, testing the defenses. Panic spread among the Thrylians. Their calm calculations could not prepare them for the unpredictable movements of humans or for the approaching Deathworlder scouts. Alina called her officers to the command deck. "The scouts are testing us. That's good. We want to know what we're up against before the full fleet arrives, but we can't underestimate them. Every move counts. Use the terrain, use the storms, and most importantly, think like humans." Small teams maneuvered through asteroid fields, using gravitational anomalies to shield themselves from the blasts. Human pilots improvised attack patterns, diving in ways that the Deathworlders did not expect. Kira and her team had set up a trap on a nearby moon. They used a combination of debris, magnetic fields, and gravity wells to channel the scout into a narrow corridor. Once there, a single energy pulse from a human destroyer disabled the scout's engines. The Thrylians watched in awe as the human tactics unfolded, realizing that these were not reckless gambles but calculated improvisation based on observation, intuition, and courage. After the first engagement, Alina convened with Calith. "Your people have knowledge, but we have creativity. That's how we survive. Together, we can turn even the impossible into something achievable." Humans and Thrylians worked side by side, blending tactics and technology. The humans taught the Thrylians how to move unpredictably, to use natural phenomena as weapons, to improvise under pressure. In turn, the Thrylians shared their advanced sensors, energy shields, and defensive grids. By the end of the week, the fleet was no longer two separate forces but a single entity, combining the best of both species. Yet tension remained. Every day brought new reports of the Deathworlders' approach. Larger ships were appearing on sensors, each one casting a shadow that made even the bravest Thrylian officers tense. Alina walked among her crew, sensing their unease. She knew fear was natural, but it could not control them. Humans thrived on facing the unknown, on taking risks when others would flee. That was their strength, and it was time to demonstrate it. Alina held a meeting with the fleet's command officers. "We are outnumbered, and the Deathworlders are stronger than anything we've faced. But we have something they do not, the ability to think differently, to act when others hesitate. Our goal is not to win with brute force. That would be impossible. But to survive, to protect the Thrylians, and to show the Deathworlders that humans are not to be underestimated. They will adapt quickly if we continue normal tactics. We need something new, something they won't predict. We will turn the Thrylian system into a labyrinth, and when they enter, they will find humans waiting where they least expect us." Alina's forces struck immediately. Human pilots led Deathworlders into narrow canyons, forcing the enemy ships to slow and cluster. Thrylian energy cannons fired from orbital stations, while human engineers manipulated gravitational fields to push asteroids into the paths of the intruders. The Deathworlders were powerful, but the combined forces created chaos that even they could not navigate easily. Aboard the flagship, Alina watched the battle unfold. She saw human pilots diving through narrow gaps, dodging energy blasts and returning fire. She saw Thrylian ships moving with precision, guided by human intuition. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. Yet the victory was not without cost. A human destroyer was damaged severely, and several Thrylian fighters were destroyed. Alina felt the weight of responsibility heavily. Every life mattered, and every decision carried consequences. Still, she knew that these sacrifices were necessary. Humanity had a role to play, and they would not shy away from it. After the engagement, Calith addressed the fleet. "Your people are extraordinary. Where I saw chaos, you saw opportunity. Where I feared defeat, you found a path to survival. I am beginning to understand why the legends speak of humans' resilience. And we help because it is the right thing to do." Alina called a strategy meeting. "We've found a weakness," she announced. "We can use it, but it will require precision and courage. We will set traps, manipulate the terrain, and use every tool at our disposal. This is our chance to show that humans, even outnumbered, can fight smart and survive." Humans drilled the Thrylians in new tactics, combining ingenuity with technology. Engineers worked tirelessly to create traps, using moons, asteroid belts, and storms as weapons. Pilots practiced maneuvers that were unconventional but effective. The fleet became a living, breathing organism, ready to respond to threats in ways no one had expected. By the end of the week, the Thrylian system had transformed. Once a peaceful network of worlds, it was now a defensive maze designed to challenge even the most formidable enemy. Humans had not only taught the Thrylians how to survive, but had also proven that their creativity and courage could stand against overwhelming odds. As the sun dipped below the horizon of Varus, casting long shadows across floating continents, Alina stood on the observation deck of the flagship. The Deathworlders' main fleet was still days away, but their scouts were persistent, probing defenses and testing reactions. The tension was palpable, but Alina felt a quiet confidence. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. They had survived harsh planets, deadly storms, and endless voids. Now they faced a threat that dwarfed all previous challenges, but humans thrived where others faltered. The signal from the Thrylians pulsed softly in the background, a reminder of why they were here. Alina knew the days ahead would be difficult, filled with danger, loss, and uncertainty. But she also knew that humans were not defined by fear. They were defined by courage, ingenuity, and the will to act when others hesitated. And so, as the first waves of Deathworlder scouts approached once more, Alina prepared her fleet, confident in one simple truth: humanity would fight, adapt, and survive. Whatever came next, they would face it together, with courage, with creativity, and with the unwavering spirit that had carried humans across countless worlds. The warning sirens echoed across the Thrylian system long before the fleet emerged from the darkness. Captain Alina Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the holographic displays. The Deathworlders had arrived. It was a sight both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Hundreds of massive, dark ships moved with terrifying precision, their hulls glinting faintly under the distant starlight. These were not mere vessels. They were predators, designed to consume entire worlds without mercy. Even the advanced Thrylians paled at the sight, their calculated confidence faltering under the sheer scale of the approaching force. Alina took a deep breath. She had expected fear, but she had also expected action. Humanity did not flinch. Humanity did not surrender. And now the test of that resilience was here. "All units, prepare for engagement," she ordered, her voice steady. "Remember, we fight smart, not just hard. Use the terrain, the storms, and every advantage we have. Humans adapt. Humans survive. Let's show them why." Thrylian cannons fired in return, precise but hesitant, struggling to match the unconventional maneuvers of the human ships. Alina's fleet responded immediately, humans darting in and out of asteroid belts, weaving between moons and using gravitational anomalies to avoid direct fire. A small squadron led by Lieutenant Haru launched a daring maneuver, leading a group of Deathworlder scouts into a canyon of floating asteroids. Using magnetic fields and calculated gravitation shifts, the squadron created a chaotic environment that the Deathworlders were unprepared for. One by one, the enemy ships collided with debris or were disabled by energy pulses redirected through improvised channels. Kira, the young engineer who had designed many of the traps, watched from her station, a mixture of fear and excitement on her face. "They didn't expect this," she whispered. "We're actually doing it." Every move, every decision carried weight. Lives depended on them, and failure was not an option. She moved from station to station, issuing commands, adjusting tactics in real time, and ensuring the humans and Thrylians acted as one. The Deathworlders, however, were not easily defeated. They adapted quickly, analyzing the patterns of the humans and adjusting their movements. Their firepower was immense, and even the strongest Thrylian shields strained under the relentless assault. Alina realized that while their improvised tactics were effective, they could not last indefinitely. They needed a bold move, a strike at the heart of the enemy fleet. After hours of skirmishes, Alina gathered her officers. "We've learned their patterns," she said. "Their ships rely on direct energy absorption. If we can exploit that, we can disrupt their formation. It will be dangerous, but it's our best chance. We will strike where it counts." As the team approached the command ship, Alina felt the familiar mixture of fear and determination that had accompanied every challenge humanity had faced. The Deathworlder vessel was enormous, its surface bristling with weapons and sensors. It pulsed with a dark energy that seemed almost alive. "Stay focused," she said through the comms. "We've trained for this. We adapt. We survive." The first disruptor detonated, sending a shockwave through the command ship systems. Its fleet faltered, momentarily disorganized. The humans pressed the advantage, striking at key points and creating a chain reaction of confusion. Deathworlder ships collided, energy fields overloaded, and for the first time the alien fleet showed signs of vulnerability. Alina's mind raced as she coordinated every move. Human ingenuity was on full display, turning the terrain, physics, and enemy assumptions into tools of survival. The Thrylians, who had relied on precision and prediction, now moved with a new understanding, improvising alongside humans. Together, they formed a force that was unpredictable, adaptable, and deadly in its cleverness. Despite the progress, the battle was not without cost. One human destroyer was critically damaged, its crew barely escaping in escape pods. Several Thrylian fighters were lost to concentrated enemy fire. Alina gritted her teeth. Every life mattered, but they could not falter now. The larger fleet would arrive soon, and they needed to maintain every advantage. In the chaos, Alina noticed a group of Deathworlder scouts attempting to flank their position, likely to attack the Thrylian civilians on Varus. Without hesitation, she ordered a counterattack. Human pilots diverted, drawing the scouts into a trap where gravitational anomalies and asteroid debris limited their movement. The scouts were destroyed, their energy absorbed and redirected by the human-engineered devices. Calith, observing from the main control center, floated forward. "Your species, you do not fight like anything I have known. Where I would have calculated, you improvise. Where I would have hesitated, you act. It is remarkable. We survive because we think beyond the rules. We fight because we must. And we adapt because we refuse to fail." Explosions rippled across its hull, and for a moment it seemed as though the entire fleet might collapse. The Deathworlders' coordination faltered, their formations breaking apart. Seizing the opportunity, the human and Thrylian forces launched a decisive counterattack. Small squadrons moved through gaps in the enemy lines, targeting supply ships and weapons arrays. Energy pulses redirected by human ingenuity tore through the fleet, creating chaos. The Deathworlders, for the first time in their long history of conquest, were disoriented, vulnerable to tactics they could not predict. Yet Alina knew this victory was temporary. The main fleet was still massive, and their forces could recover. She made a critical decision. All units retreat to defensive positions around Varus. Draw them in. Use the traps, the terrain, the storms. We will not give up the system, but we will not face their full power in open space. Thrylian cannons fired from hidden positions, striking when least expected. The Deathworlders, despite their size and power, were funneled into positions where their strength became a disadvantage. By nightfall, the battle had turned. The Deathworlders had suffered heavy losses, their scouts destroyed, and their main fleet disrupted. Human ingenuity had leveled the playing field, turning desperation into opportunity. The Thrylians, once fearful, now moved with confidence alongside their human allies. Alina stood on the observation deck, looking at the scattered lights of the damaged Deathworlder ships. She knew the fight was far from over, but she also knew something fundamental had changed. Humanity had shown that even against overwhelming odds, cleverness, courage, and determination could shift the balance. Haru approached her, exhaustion written across his face. "Captain, they didn't expect this. They never expected humans to fight like this. We've proven we can stand against them. They are still dangerous. They will learn, and we must be ready for when they return. We fight when others run, we act when others hesitate, and we survive when survival seems impossible. That is who we are." As Alina prepared reports for the Council back on Orion 7, she reflected on what had transpired. Humanity had faced the Deathworlders and survived, not through sheer power, but through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. They had turned a desperate situation into a strategic advantage, demonstrating the very essence of HFY, humans standing tall against insurmountable odds. Yet even as she rested briefly, the warning sensors continued to blink. The main fleet of Deathworlders was still on its way. The fight was not over. But Alina was certain of one thing: humans had made their mark. They had shown the galaxy that even the smallest, most outnumbered forces could stand against terror and emerge victorious. And with that certainty, she prepared her crew for the challenges ahead, confident that humanity's courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit would guide them through the trials to come. The Deathworlder fleet had retreated, but their shadow still hung over the Thrylian system like a dark cloud. Captain Alina Voss paced the bridge of the flagship, her gaze fixed on the swirling patterns of asteroid belts and floating continents. Every sensor blinked with activity, ships repairing, systems recalibrating, humans and Thrylians alike moving with quiet urgency. They had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. Alina gathered her officers for a strategy meeting. "We've seen what they can do," she said, her voice steady. "Their scouts were destroyed and their command ship was disrupted, but they are adaptive, relentless, and far stronger in numbers. We can't fight them the way we fought the scouts. We need to anticipate their next move and act before they strike again. Every time they encounter our energy-based attacks, they adjust. But there's a delay. It's not instantaneous. If we can exploit that delay strategically, we can target their fleet in ways they won't expect. That's our best chance. Over the next few cycles, the humans and Thrylians worked tirelessly. Engineers reinforced orbital defenses with hybrid energy shields, blending Thrylian technology with human ingenuity. Pilots practiced maneuvers that exploited gravitational anomalies, weaving through asteroid belts and diving through planetary storms. Small squads of humans boarded nearby moons and converted them into launch points for ambushes and traps. Alina herself led a reconnaissance mission to the edge of the system, accompanied by a team of Thrylian officers. They observed the Deathworlders from a distance, studying their formation, their energy patterns, and their tactics. The massive fleet moved like a single organism, coordinated and deadly, but even they were vulnerable to clever strategies, misdirection, and rapid improvisation. "We can't outgun them," Alina said as she studied the displays, "but we can outthink them. We can turn this system into a trap, and when they enter, they will find themselves facing something they cannot predict." Scouts of the Deathworlder fleet slipped into the outer perimeter of the system, testing defenses and probing for weaknesses. Alina ordered human and Thrylian forces to respond immediately, but not as before. This time, they used the environment itself as a weapon. Asteroid belts were manipulated with magnetic fields, forcing the enemy ships to slow and cluster. Gravity wells created by human-engineered devices pulled the scouts into narrow channels. Energy pulses were redirected through improvised conduits, striking the ships where they were most vulnerable. The scouts, though strong, were caught off guard, their movements disrupted by the unfamiliar tactics. Haru watched the displays in awe. "They didn't expect this," he said. "They're reacting too slowly. We're shaping their path." She began planning a decisive strike that would test every human and Thrylian skill, every ounce of ingenuity and courage. The plan was bold. A small strike team would infiltrate the Deathworlder command ship, the central hub controlling the fleet. While the command ship was disrupted, the combined forces of humans and Thrylians would unleash a coordinated attack from all angles. The idea was simple in theory: disrupt the fleet, create confusion, and seize the advantage. In practice, it required perfect timing, precision, and nerves of steel. Alina selected the strike team herself. Pilots, engineers, and combat specialists, all humans, were chosen for their skill, adaptability, and courage. Thrylian officers volunteered to assist, providing advanced technology and tactical support. The team trained tirelessly, rehearsing every maneuver, every contingency, every emergency procedure. Finally, the day arrived. The Deathworlder fleet entered the Thrylian system, larger than any human or Thrylian had seen. Hundreds of ships, dark and menacing, moved in perfect formation, their energy fields pulsing with power. Civilians on Varus and nearby worlds watched in fear, unaware of the human fleet positioned between them and annihilation. Alina stood on the bridge, calm and resolute. "Remember," she said, addressing her officers and the Thrylian commanders, "we are not here to fight blindly. We are here to survive, to protect, and to outthink an enemy that believes they are invincible. Humanity will show them the power of courage and ingenuity." Engineers aboard small craft deployed energy disruptors, targeting the command ship systems. The Deathworlders, despite their size and strength, were unprepared for attacks from directions they considered safe. Explosions rippled through the command ship, disrupting communications and causing chaos in the fleet. Human pilots took advantage of the confusion, striking key ships and forcing the Deathworlders into disarray. Thrylian orbital cannons fired from hidden positions, adding to the confusion. The combined human-Thrylian force moved as one, unpredictable and relentless. Alina coordinated every move from the flagship, her mind racing through calculations, possibilities, and contingencies. Every decision mattered. Every command could mean life or death. Yet, despite the pressure, she remained calm, focused on the one thing that had always defined humans: the ability to act decisively when others hesitated. The Deathworlders began to realize they were under attack from an unexpected angle. Their energy absorption systems were being exploited, their formations disrupted, their command chain fractured. For the first time, they experienced confusion, vulnerability, and fear. Humans, outnumbered but unyielding, were turning the tide. Kira, overseeing the deployment of energy disruptors, watched the command ship systems falter. "We're doing it," she whispered. "We're really doing it." Alina felt the weight of every loss, knowing that each life mattered. But she also knew that victory required risk, and that courage often demanded sacrifice. As the Deathworlder fleet faltered, Alina issued a bold command. "All units, press the advantage. Strike with precision and creativity. Show them that even the impossible can be challenged." Finally, the command ship erupted in a controlled detonation, sending shockwaves through the enemy formation. The Deathworlder fleet, once confident and unstoppable, was in retreat, its forces fractured and demoralized. Humans and Thrylians had won a decisive victory, but the cost was evident in the damaged ships and the lives lost. Alina stood on the bridge, surveying the aftermath. The Thrylian worlds were safe, at least for now, and the Deathworlders had been humbled. Yet she knew the war was not over. The enemy would return, stronger and more determined. But humanity had proven something vital, that courage, creativity, and resilience could overcome even the greatest odds. Calith approached her, his form shimmering with emotion. "Your species, you are extraordinary. Where I saw fear, you saw opportunity. Where I hesitated, you acted. We may survive because of you. And we act because we refuse to fail." The stars glittered above, indifferent to the battles below. The Deathworlders had been driven back, but their threat remained. Alina knew the coming days would be filled with planning, rebuilding, and preparing for the inevitable return of the enemy. Yet she also knew that humanity, even when outnumbered and facing insurmountable odds, had the power to change the course of history. The Thrylians, once fearful and uncertain, now looked to the humans as equals, allies, and protectors. They had seen firsthand what courage, adaptability, and creativity could achieve, and in that knowledge, humanity had not only saved lives, they had earned respect across the stars. Alina's gaze lingered on the horizon. The Deathworlders would return, and the next battle would be harder. But humans had proven their worth, their spirit, and their unyielding will. And for the first time, she felt certain that no matter the challenge, humanity would endure. The Thrylian system was quiet now, but the calm was only temporary. Captain Alina Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the repaired fleet. The Deathworlders had been pushed back, their scouts destroyed, and their command ship neutralized, but Alina knew better than to believe the enemy was gone forever. They were relentless, and their numbers were vast. Survival demanded vigilance. Haru approached her, exhaustion visible in his posture but determination burning in his eyes. "Captain, the main fleet is still regrouping. If they return, they'll be stronger and more coordinated than before." Human engineers worked side by side with Thrylian technicians, blending technology, knowledge, and ingenuity. Every ship that came back online was stronger, more adaptable, and ready for the next confrontation. The humans had taught the Thrylians how to think creatively, to improvise under pressure, and to fight in ways that the Deathworlders did not expect. Calith floated toward Alina on the observation deck. "Your species, it is remarkable. You inspire courage where there was fear. You teach adaptability where there was hesitation. The Thrylians may survive because of you. We survive because we must, we fight because we can, and we act because we refuse to fail. That is what makes humans humans." Yet humanity had an advantage that even the Deathworlders could not anticipate: knowledge of the terrain, improvised strategies, and the willingness to act unpredictably. Alina gathered her officers. "We have one chance to turn this tide permanently. We will lure the fleet into the inner system where we control the environment. We will use every planet, moon, asteroid, and storm to our advantage, and then we will strike at their command. This is our opportunity to show them that humanity is not to be underestimated." The enemy moved with confidence at first, assuming their strength would overwhelm any resistance. But as they entered the inner system, chaos awaited them. Asteroid belts shifted unexpectedly, guided by magnetic and gravitational manipulations. Energy fields pulsed in ways the Deathworlders could not predict, striking ships at vulnerable points. Moons, converted into launch points and trap zones, released small attack craft that harassed and confused the enemy. Every move the Deathworlders made was anticipated, countered, or exploited by the combined human-Thrylian forces. Alina coordinated the strike from the flagship, issuing orders with calm precision. "Focus fire on the command cluster. Lead the fleet into the trap." Use the environment, adapt, survive. Kira and her team deployed the final set of disruptors, targeting the remaining command ships. "We've calculated the timing perfectly," she said. "This should create maximum disruption." The Deathworlder fleet erupted into chaos. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, and energy fields collapsed. For the first time, the Deathworlders faced defeat, not by numbers, but by strategy, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of a smaller, determined force. The humans pressed the advantage. Strike teams moved through the enemy ranks, disabling key ships and ensuring that any regrouping would be slow and difficult. The Thrylian forces, now confident and coordinated, added precision attacks that amplified the disruption. Together, humans and Thrylians were unstoppable. Alina watched the flagship of the Deathworlder fleet falter and explode in a controlled chain reaction. The enemy fleet broke apart, retreating in disarray. The skies of the Thrylian system were filled with debris and energy pulses, but the humans and their allies had won. The celebration was quiet but profound. Humans and Thrylians alike understood the cost of victory. Ships had been lost, lives had been risked, and the battle had been hard fought. Yet the HFY message was clear. Humans, small in number and outmatched in raw power, had survived and prevailed through courage, ingenuity, and unyielding determination. Calith approached Alina once more. "Your species, I have seen much, yet nothing compares to this. The Thrylians owe our survival to your people. You have demonstrated courage, adaptability, and creativity beyond our understanding. Humans assisted in every way, teaching strategies, fortifying defenses, and sharing knowledge. The collaboration between the two species had created a bond stronger than any single victory. Humans had earned respect not only for their courage, but for their ingenuity, proving that even a small, determined species could shape the fate of an entire system." As the days passed, Alina reflected on the events. Humanity had faced a superior enemy and prevailed not through brute force, but through thinking differently, adapting, and acting decisively. They had turned desperation into opportunity, fear into courage, and chaos into strategy. The Deathworlders, though not fully destroyed, had been humbled. The galaxy had seen that humans were a species capable of extraordinary resilience and bravery. On Varus, civilians watched the fleets above, safe once more. Children pointed at the human ships, imagining the heroes who had defended them. Thrylian leaders discussed future alliances, inspired by humans' willingness to act when others might have fled. Alina understood that humanity's impact would echo far beyond this single battle. They had not only survived, they had inspired hope, courage, and unity. Alina walked the observation deck one last time before returning to the command center. Stars glittered above, distant and unchanging, yet she felt a deep connection to them. Humanity had proven its worth, not through sheer numbers or technology alone, but through a spirit that refused to bend in the face of danger. The Thrylian Council formally recognized the human fleet's contribution. Medals and honors were awarded, but Alina understood that the true recognition lay in the survival of the system and the unity forged between two species. Humans had shown that courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome even the most formidable odds. As the human fleet prepared to return to Orion 7, Alina transmitted a message across the stars. She spoke not only to the Thrylians but to distant human colonies, warning them of future threats and sharing the lessons of survival, ingenuity, and courage. Humanity, she emphasized, could stand against even the darkest dangers if they acted together, adapted quickly, and refused to surrender. Her final thought as she looked at the stars was simple but powerful. Humanity had endured impossible challenges before and would continue to do so. They had faced the Deathworlders, survived, and changed the course of a galactic battle. And wherever humans went, their courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit would leave an indelible mark on the universe. The Thrylian system was safe for now. The Deathworlders had been repelled, humbled, and forced to reconsider their approach. Humans had proven that even when outnumbered and outmatched, their resilience and ingenuity could prevail. The galaxy had seen what humanity was capable of, and Alina knew that this was only the beginning. As the fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the Thrylian system behind, Alina allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. They had turned fear into courage, chaos into strategy, and uncertainty into victory. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of dangers, wonders, and possibilities. And humanity, small but unyielding, would face them all together with courage and ingenuity. The legacy of the last human in this battle, and the countless humans who had fought alongside, would echo across the galaxy. It was a message of hope, of perseverance, and of the enduring spirit that made humans extraordinary. No matter the challenge, no matter the enemy, humanity would endure. Humanity would survive. Humanity would rise. And in that, the galaxy had witnessed the true power of humanity.